Hi, I'm back with Diaries of a Former Mortician, vlog 11. 11, that's my lucky number. Okay, so today I'm going to start off with, I don't think they're two gross stories. They're just like, just stories, okay? About when I was working in the field as a mortician. Okay, so one of the stories I want to share was, a weird reason that I got hired in a certain funeral home. Okay. There was this funeral home. It was a privately owned funeral home, and the owner, one of the owners, was a surgeon, and he collected artwork, and he had artwork done like by painters and whatnot. His sister had passed away, I think, of cancer, and she was young, you know. The father also is part owner of the funeral home as well. So when I went in for an interview to that funeral home, I looked at one of the paintings on the wall, and it was a portrait of the daughter. And I didn't know this. I just thought it was some painting of some woman. And she looked like very, very, very similar to me. So one of the owners and one of the sons and one of the family members, they were like, "Wow, you look just like such and such." I was like, "Really? Yeah, really? Yeah, I am." Trying to play it off, but I did look like this person. So I said, I got the job. All right. But then, like, every time we'd have a funeral or a wake at the funeral home, the people, because I would be working there, and the people would say, "Oh, is that you? Is that painting you?" And I'll have to tell the story and explain that that's not me. It just looks like me. "Well, it could be you. Are you sure that's not you?" I'm like, "No, it's not me. Well, it could be your twin." And I'm like, "Thank you." And so, as that went on, another one of the owners or partners in the funeral home was a lady, and she was my boss, and she was not too thrilled that I looked like the person in the photograph, in the painting, because she had been trying to actually get into that family for so long by dating the son and just doing extra stuff and trying to get on their good side, and they automatically just embrace me because I look like their dead child or sister. So she already has an attitude towards me. And it's just strange because I couldn't help the fact that I look like this person. And so she would always pick at me. She would always, just be very upset. And then the father, he's probably in his 70s or whatnot, and one of the owners of the funeral home. He, like, his family is like Creole, and I know, like, my grandma's Creole, and I know how to cook. And so I had actually mentioned that I knew how to cook gumbo, and his eyes just got huge. "You know how to cook gumbo? Oh my God!" He invited me to his house to come cook and join them, and da 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 da. And the lady overheard this and got mad because she can't cook, and she was like, "Well, I know how to buy fried chicken." And I'm like, "Okay, I know how to cook gumbo." So he said, "Well, I'm going to give you some money, and I want you to go to the grocery store with my son, and I want you to go and buy anything you need, and then y'all can come to my house and cook the gumbo, and we're going to have fun," and da da da. So she had, she was just blown away because all of a sudden now I'm like one of their favorites. And so she couldn't have that. She shows up to the house with her bucket of chicken, and while I'm cooking, okay, and she's like, "Well, I bought some chicken too." Nobody wanted to eat the chicken. Everybody was waiting on my gumbo, right? She was mad. She left. She just left. Anyway, so that was the grandfather's house, or the father's house, or whatever. And so then the son actually started to, show some interest in me. And so we started hanging out. And he invited me over his house, whose dad is also the owner of the funeral, one of the owners of the funeral home. And it's like 2 generations, right? Actually 3 generations now. And the dad is the surgeon, right? So he's a surgeon, and he lives in a huge, very nice house. Okay, so she finds out that I was over there visiting, and she gets mad. She's like, I mean, this house had like you know how they have those trees and bushes that are shaped in animal shapes and stuff, and all whimsical, and like this house was huge. It's like a mansion. Okay, and I get invited over there, and so like she basically made my life like a living hell at work, to where I wanted to quit. And so basically I quit. But that was just a weird story about how I got hired at this certain funeral home, because I looked like someone that was already dead. Okay, another story I have is a lot of people think that morticians and funeral directors make a lot of money. And I don't know what you would call a lot of money, but for the amount of hours that they work, and the many days that they have to work, and all hours of the night that they have to work, it's not a lot of money. People think that they have a lot of money because they always dress nice and drive like the luxury hearse and the luxury limo. Those aren't their cars. They have to wear suits because they're always going to funerals, hospitals, or wakes, or churches. So they have to be dressed like that. That's just their uniform. It's not because they can wear that every day. Most of that is the same suit every other day. Okay, you can only be rich in that field if you decide that you want to own your own funeral home, and you get good you get a good loan, or you have good business partners and whatnot, and you can invest. But other than that, if you're just a regular funeral director, you're not going to make that much money just directing funerals, because you're going to be working like 14 plus hours a day. You're going to be working on the weekends and da 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 da. And then if you work for a corporate owned funeral home, you have to memorize the what you say to the family when they come in. It's like a required way that you must say certain things to people. You can't even use your own words. If you don't go by the script, they don't want you. So it's just, you don't make a lot of money. It's just like a regular job. You can make money, the same amount of money being a chef or a cook or something like that. Okay. So, and working the same amount of hours. So whoever told you that you make a lot of money if you're a mortician? And it's only if you own the funeral home. Okay. Or if you work off commission and you selling expensive caskets or whatever. But I don't know if they even, some places don't even work off commission. So yeah, so don't go into the field thinking that you're just going to be rich, because you're going to be sadly mistaken. Okay. This is a job that you do if you truly love it. Okay. It's not a get rich job. Also, there are other, professions that have to do with the funeral industry that's not the funeral industry, like selling monuments, selling grave space, and stuff like that. Consultation services, like some people go in to make funeral arrangements and they get ripped off. There are now people who will go and make the funeral arrangements with you and make sure you don't get ripped off, because they know the ins and outs, what's really necessary, all the extra stuff that they try to sell you that you don't need. I thought about doing that for a while, but then I was like, I mean, it's windy and my windows. Woohoo! I thought about doing that for a second, but then I realized, I don't even want to be um, in the way of someone's making their rent money. And sometimes people have to upsell, and that's their job. So I really don't want to be in the way of people making a living, because a lot of those people, they need that money. And yeah, just like a car salesman is going to sell you a car and up the price, that's just business. So I decided against doing that, because it's just it's someone's money. I wouldn't want someone coming to take away food off my table. It's not really a scam, it's just the art of business. So but there are morals. Like if there's someone who's obviously poor, and you're trying to upsell them everything in the book, then that's where you need to like step in and say, well, sir, does she really need a flower car when their flowers can just be put in the hearse? Does she really need blah 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 blah? Yeah, then someone needs to help her out. Okay, so okay, another story, that some cemeteries, they're very disorganized, and they will bury your loved one, and they won't like keep track or records of where this person is. So you kind of have to like remember. If you don't come back for a long time, you won't be able to find it. I have an uncle who's buried, and the cemetery was so unprofessional. They forgot to put his date of death on the stone. So it's like he's still alive, but he's buried there. No one knows, the date of death hadn't been sketched into the stone. So I'm like, okay, when are y'all gonna do that? And anyway, so you have to kind of like stay on top of people, because funeral directing is very close to being a wedding planner, except you're just planning a funeral and actually embalming a body if you're a mortician. So they have a lot to keep in their mind on a schedule, things that they might forget to check off their checklist to do. You got to follow up on them, You got to follow up and make sure everything is done. Another thing, another myth that they always showing like funeral directors like embalming a body and eating a sandwich. Okay, I've never seen that. They don't even allow food in the embalming room. Okay, you know why? Because first of all, the environment is toxic. Okay, there's germs, there's the smell and the aroma and the air that's filled with the embalming fluid. Anything you take in there and put in your mouth is toxic. They don't even allow you to chew gum, because the fumes from the embalming fluid will get into the gum. Okay, so that's just for television. Okay, no one eats in there when they wouldn't want to. Okay, so y'all get that out your mind. When you go into the embalming room, they give you gloves. They give you like one of those surgeon hats, like shower caps. They give you the little shower caps to put on your shoes so you don't get anything on the bottom of your shoe. They give you like one of those doctor coats and a surgical mask and goggles. Okay? Because when you're working on a body, things, will splat or spray, or you will get something on you. Something will fall on the floor and you might accidentally step in it. And if you leave the funeral home and you have this on the bottom of your shoe, and you track it in your car, and then you track it in your house, and your newborn baby crawls on the carpet behind you, that's called contamination. So they don't allow you to bring any type of food, any type of beverage, any type of gum in the embalming room, period. There's so many rules. You have to like basically drench yourself in protection before you even go in there. And then they give you this monitor to wear, to where if the the embalming fumes get to a certain level, it will like go off and tell you to get out of the room, because at that point the air is toxic, too toxic for you to be in there. So yeah, that's all myth. And if y'all ever seen that show 6 Feet Under, A lot of that stuff is accurate, and a lot of it's not. But I like the way that they show that they were always working, because that's how it is. If you're a mortician, you won't have a life. Just, you're not gonna have a life. Okay, you're gonna work every Saturday. You're gonna work unless you have a vacation time, or unless you own your own funeral home. But you're gonna be working. Okay. You're gonna be getting up in the middle of the night. You're gonna be waking up whenever that person decides to die. They're gonna call you to come get them. Okay. And a lot of the times you have to get up out of your sleep and Mommy, go get what?
Can I watch the sparkle?
1 second. A lot of the time you have to get up out of your sleep and go to the hospital and pick up a body, bring it back to the funeral home, and whatever. Because if you wait, they're gonna call another funeral home, and a lot of the times the families will stay at the hospital until the funeral home arrives. So you gotta get up and go. One time I was interrupted like at 2 o'clock in the morning. My phone rang and it was like, okay, go get the body. That's why you can't be drinking, you can't be drunk, you can't, you can't show up to the hospital drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're on call to pick up bodies. So say goodbye to that. Okay. But the one good thing about being a mortician and a funeral director is you can get out of tickets. Like, I got stopped by a police officer and I was speeding, and I was like, he's like, well, where are you going in such a hurry, young lady? And I was like, oh, I'm late for work. I have to go embalm a body. And he was like, oh, you're a funeral director? You're a mortician? I was like, yeah. And I have to get this body embalmed. And sorry, I was speeding. I wasn't paying attention. I just, da da da. So, okay, go ahead and go. Then they start telling you stories. Well, I thought about being a mortician too. I was like, okay, really? Yeah, you have to indulge them. But yeah, I got out of tickets for that. And like, also, during the funeral, the police officers, the motorcycle police officers, the escort police officers are... Okay, I was interrupted. I'm sorry. Okay, so the hearse, driving the hearse. Driving the hearse is quite fun, and usually it's a luxury car, like a Cadillac or a Lincoln, or sometimes even a Mercedes if you work for a nice, if you know what I'm saying. And so it's kind of cool driving, and you get lots of crazy looks when you're driving. I actually got hit on while I was driving a hearse. Some strange man found it very attractive. So anyway, like, okay, y'all, I gotta tell y'all this story. So I was driving the hearse back from the funeral, and I was like stopped at a red light. I think some guy was looking at me, and he was waving, right? And I'm just like, So I get back to the funeral home with the hearse. I park it, and I go into the funeral home. My boss is like, this is a different funeral home. My boss is a man. My boss says, someone called here looking for you by the name of such and such. I'm like, I don't know anybody by the name of that name. And they were like, oh yeah, they said that they didn't ask for you by name. They just described how you looked. And I'm like, really? And they were like, well, this is their phone number, and they asked for you to give them a call. I'm like, I wonder who this could be. So I'm like, oh, who's calling for me? I'm thinking it's just somebody who forgot my name. So I call the person. I'm like, hello, you called looking for me, at such and such funeral home. He was like, yeah, I saw you driving that hearse, and I saw the name of the funeral home on the hearse, and I called the funeral home to see who you were. And then they asked me out on a date. Okay, that was funny. You have to like give the dude credit for like searching and calling and inquiring and finding trying to find out about you. Just for that reason alone, I went out on the date with them. So Cool. Anyway. Um, yeah, and then there's this other myth, especially among guys, that mortician women are freaks or whatnot. And because we're just strange and different and da, da, da. Well, I think everyone at that age is like I was like 19, 20, 21 during that era, 22. I think everyone at that age is just, into whatever in their life. So they can't really say that mortician women are freaky or mortician men. I know mortician men, I don't know if I would call them freaky, but they're just, just like every other man. I don't know. A lot of people like to put labels on people and give them like a strange, aura about themselves or whatever. But they're basically the same as every other person. They just work with dead people. So, I mean, they might be freaky to you. They're not freaky to themselves or other people who don't know what they do for a living. So, like whenever somebody would ask me what I did for a living, it is so windy outside today. Whenever someone would ask me what I did for a living and I tell them, they're like, "You're too attractive to do such a thing." I'm like, "Well, what do y'all want? Ugly morticians?" I mean, that's kind of like, why you could be doing something else. That's kind of like an insult. Like, okay, so only ugly people should be morticians? Okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh, you should be married. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I should be married. But like right now, I'm trying to do me. I have time for that. And so they were like, well, like, it's just the most asked question that I've ever gotten. Well, you're too pretty to do that. Why don't you do something else? Like what? Okay. Like, be a receptionist, be a nurse. I did do one semester of nursing school. But then I was like, no. Because if I accidentally overdose a patient by a miscalculation of the medication that I give them, I don't think, that would sit good with me. Okay? Like, I can work with dead people. I can embalm dead people all day long. But I don't want to, give them, I don't want to kill anyone. So I took myself out of nursing school just because I knew that I did not have the discipline to be a proper nurse. I did not have the, what would you call it? Apathy to be a nurse. I just didn't have that for people because I have been so used to dealing with dead people. It's like I had become numb, so I could not be a proper nurse. I'd be like so rough and treating the person like they were a dead body. So I decided not to be that. And so I took some years off and found my next profession. Went back to school to be a chef. And it's very similar to being a mortician because you do still have to cut meat. I'll get into that later. But anyway, so yeah. There's just a lot of little stories that's like swirling around in my head, and I really want to do a question and answer mortician, former mortician vlog video. So if y'all have any questions about life as a mortician and anything, I will do a question and answer video for number 12. So please, please, please ask any questions. I don't care if you think they're dumb questions or not, just ask them, because a lot of people probably are asking the same questions too and they just don't want to ask. So just ask them and I'll answer as best as I can. I'm serious. Doesn't matter how ridiculous, just ask. Okay, because I think I want to do the 12th one as a question and answer video for everyone who is curious. All right, thanks for watching. Comment, rate, subscribe, pass this video around. Sorry if this one was like a little bit of a ramble. I'm kind of out of practice because I've been gone for 2 weeks, but next one is going to be good. Okay, peace.